something wrong with his shoulder, but this year he is healthy. He is ready to go. It's not the way they wanted to bring him up in an emergency situation like this, but I think he's earned the right at Richmond with the job that he's done, and I think they're counting on him for some good innings tonight.
If they get a few runs early, it would certainly help his way, but that's going to be tough. Darryl Kyle on the mound for Houston. He's beaten the Braves already once this year. Back with the starting lineups, the play-by-play story right after this.
Atlanta Braves baseball, brought to you by Beechwood Age Budweiser, official sponsor of the 1996 U.S. Olympic team. This Bud's for you. And by Aflac. Aflac covers the unexpected cost of getting well. Aflac, insuring over 38 million people worldwide.
Back in the Astrodome, game 2 of the series about to get underway. Time to take a look at our Michigan starting lineups. And for the Braves, who won it last night. And let me echo Skip's sentiments. That is one of the best ball games we've watched all year long. Here's the starting lineup tonight. Marquise Grissom will lead it off. He's in center field. Mark Lemke at second base will bat in the 2 spot. Chipper Jones hitting third. He's the third baseman. Cleanup hitter, first baseman Fred McGriff. Ryan Klesko is in left field and will hit fifth. He'll be followed by Mark Whitten, who will play right field tonight. Javi Lopez batting seventh will catch. The shortstop is Rafael Belliard, and making his first start of 1996, left-hander Brad Woodall. For the Astros, they'll feature a defense that has Cangelosi in left, Mouton in center, and Bell in right. The infield, Sean Berry at third, Gutierrez the shortstop, Biggio at second, and Jeff Bagwell will be at first. Randy Knorr is the catcher, and making his 21st appearance, his 20th start, a right-hander, Darryl Kyle. Umpiring crew moves up 90 feet. Here's the way they'll work today. Greg Bonet will call the balls and strikes. Larry Pansino at first, Eric Gregg at second, and Bob Davidson will be at third. The Astros have taken the field. Kyle is a pitcher who took a little while maturing. He's always had good stuff, but harnessing it and throwing it in the strike zone was one of their concerns. Still 60 walks in 129 innings, but the strikeout total up high. Per 9 innings, he is one of the best in the National League, 132 and 129 in the third innings. Not many home runs either. Only 9 allowed. Part of that, I'm sure, comes from the fact he pitches here in the Dome, and part because he does pitch down with good stuff. The league hitting .270 against him. 2 of his last 3 starts, he's gone 9 innings, including the 5th of July. Maybe you'll remember down in Atlanta, he beat the Braves 7-1. He scattered 9 hits. He only walked 2. He struck out 5. He has not done his best pitching this year here in the Dome. He's 1-3 with an earned run average just a hair under 4. One of the reasons he's been able to win is that this year he has been so effective against right-handers. A .235 batting average against righties. Only 4 home runs. It's lefties that have given him trouble. And part of that is because he is still working on an effective off-speed pitch to have something to go down and away from left-handed hitters. Here's his record in his last 5 starts. Excellent earned run average. 8 innings a start and a strikeout an inning, continuing the trend that he has had all year long. And for the Braves, again, coming into the Astrodome, they have loved playing here for the last few years. For a while, if you followed the Braves a long time ago, it was no fun coming to the Dome, but it all started in '91, and they have won 30 out of their last 37. Hopefully that's encouraging news for Brad Woodall. And Skip, we're about set to go.
Okay, Don, and also encouraging for Brad Woodall. He's sitting right next to Tom Glavine, who pitches with a similar style. I'm glad to see that. Marquise leads it off, and there's a drive. If it's fair down the line, it is gone. A leadoff home run for Grissom. His second in his career against Darryl Kyle. His 15th of the year, his second of the series. 1-0.
And people talk about Marquise Grissom not being your prototypical leadoff hitter. I'm not sure what book that came out of, but he is a leadoff hitter that'll get you up 1-0 on the first pitch. Belt high, inside corner, maybe in off the plate. What a good hitting stroke. And you got to know when you juice one like that, it is out of here. Kept it fair by plenty. Okay, Brad Woodall, there's your lead.
Here's Mark Lemke. Fastball high and away, 1 ball, no strikes. Kyle is a guy who has tremendous control problems at times. He wants 60 hit 11, 8 wild pitches. And he's outside here, 2-0. There's nothing wrong with his control to Grissom.
2 strike on the first pitch.
2 balls, no strikes.
Okay, maybe he doesn't steal you 60 bases and isn't a slap hitter, but personally I'd rather have that in the context of this Braves ball club.
Greg Bonet finally rouses himself to call that a strike, and it's 2-1. Three balls and a strike. Elsewhere, the Phillies lead the Marlins 2-1 after 2.5. New York 3 in the first at home against Montreal. They've played an inning and a half. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati 1-1. Cincinnati batting in the second. That ball's well hit to center field. Back goes Mouton. He's there. He's got it about 385 feet away for the first out. And Chipper Jones will come to the plate. American League, it's raining in Boston, where Baltimore wants to play. Detroit 1-0 over Toronto in the second. Cleveland 1-0 over Minnesota after 4, and all the other action either not yet started or has just begun. Chipper Jones stands in 2 out of 4 last night, 1 out of 8 against Kyle in his lifetime. Pop foul back and out of play, 0-1. 1 out, nobody on, but a run is in. Kyle out of Southern California, lives now in Sugar Land, Texas. Good breaking ball. It's 0-2. Nothing Atlanta, our score. We're going to try to give you the score a little more often the next 2 weeks than we normally do, because I know there'll be a whole bunch of channel surfing going on with the Olympics underway. The 1-2 pitch. Here it is. Downstairs, 2-2.
In the game that Kyle pitched down in Atlanta on the 5th of July, he started off giving up a lot of fly balls early. 8 of his first 15 outs were fly balls. Then he finished it off. His last 12 outs were either strikeouts or ground outs. That's when he's most effective, when he's down in the strike zone.
Too far down there. That one pops away in a full count. The result, he was ahead 0-2. Fred McGriff, who has tattooed him for 4 home runs, is next.
You mentioned he needs to throw strikes. He only walked 2 in that ballgame and nobody after the 3rd.
He walked him. That's the one thing about Chipper Jones for a young hitter. Boy, he knows the strike zone. You got to throw a strike. Not many guys 0-2 will work a guy for a walk like that.
Well, so much is made now out of power hitting, and nobody gets on the highlight films for walking. It's awfully, you have to have your ego in control when you're as talented as he is to not go up there and try to yank the first pitch that's near the strike zone. He's a very patient, good young hitter.
You know, you bring up a good point, and I guess if I ran ESPN or CNN Sports, I'd do it the same way. But when they show those highlights, they're really skewed.
Well, you screw up the team and patient concept.
It's all home runs.
Home runs, the flamboyant, the flashy. It's not the double play that got you out of an inning. It's not the strike on the outside corner. It's not the time Fred McGriff hit the ground ball to second to get the winning run to third.
Marquise Grissom got into the alley to turn a triple into a single.
Last night, yeah. That's exactly right. You won't see that.
They don't have time, I guess, to do that justice. Little squibber foul.
Because actually their job is not to show winning baseball in hours. Sometimes it's not to show winning baseball. It's to show highlights to attract the listeners to the news, when winning baseball is done maybe in the 25 other plays that don't even rate being on the air. Okay, slide the soapbox out.
They tell me that the weather's just great in Atlanta for the Olympics. There's the strength. 1-2. Heat index at 6 o'clock, I understand, was 110. But it's cooling off tonight, so it should be all right.
Are you good? Wait.
A ball and 2 strikes. Throw to first, runner back, and we also understand that the opening ceremonies have been delayed because Glenn Diamond is not through shaking hands with all the people who are attending the 85,000 plus. The stretch. Fastball high and away. So far he's been unable to finish a hitter off.
Understand they're running that right guard test there tonight too.
But they are. And they're going to have the wave is going to be part of the ceremony.
There'll be some 5-day deodorant pads really tested tonight.
Two balls, 2 strikes.
Phone is ringing in the truck.
And they're smart enough not to answer it. Jones back easily, still 2-2. McGriff waits. Curve ball hit a mile again, but foul. Fred's getting tired. That only made the second down.
You give up a run early, and a lot of times, if you're a guy like Kyle, you walk a guy. Now you concern yourself as much with keeping him at close at first as you do the guy at home plate. The logic, the reason that's illogical is if you make a mistake with Chipper Jones, he moves up 90 feet. You make a mistake with Fred McGriff, they both score. More attention to the plate.
Into the dirt. Randy Nora, good play. And another full count. Let's see if they send Chipper. He is 7 out of 8 on the stolen base department. One out, one on, one in. Top of the first. He's running. Line drive left center field. That's going to plug the gap. Chipper, because he was running, will be able to score. And McGriff moseys into second base with a double. It's 2-0. Fred hitting .419 in his last 8 games. As cold as he was, that's how hot he's gotten. And it's 2-0, and the Braves threaten to get more.
And some patient hitting. Worked the count to 3-2. Didn't try to yank one in the upper deck where he did last night. He's getting the fastball going out away from him and stayed right with it. Kept his head right down on it. That's some good hitting.
And the pitching coach, Brent Strom, goes to the mound, former American League pitcher. Talk things over with Darryl Kyle. Well, we were hopeful that Brad Woodall would get some runs early to take a little pressure off. And that is the case, and the Braves hope to get some more. Plesko 3 out of 13 in his career against this fella. And Mark Whitten has just owned it. 9 out of 15, a home run included. And he waits on deck. Fred edges away at second. You know the play last night where McGriff was unable to get from second to third on a grounder to the right side?
Right.
Asked him about that, and his explanation was very simple. He said, I messed it up. Okay.
Isn't that refreshing?
Yeah, it is. Ground ball to second. Runner will move up. Biggio fields. Plesko is out. Runner at third, 2 down. For Whitten, and I imagine they will pitch carefully to him. Whitten at 250 overall, 310 as a Brave. And 345 as a left-hand hitter, and he steps in there that way now.
You don't want to get any further down, so you want to make some good pitches here. And if I were thinking like Kyle, I would make sure this is not a guy that gives him a 3-0 lead or a 4-0 lead.
Just missed inside. 1 ball, no strikes.
Probably a little early in the ballgame to think about it, but you actually have 2 free bases to play with to get to Rafael Belliard.
He hasn't given him to or challenged him yet. 2-0 the count. Got around late on a fastball. 2-1. Runner at third, 2 down, 2 in. Marquise had a homer to start it, and McGriff doubled home Chipper, who had walked. Crowd similar to last night's, 35,000 or so. Curve is inside. 3 balls, 1 strike. High drive into left center field, but not enough carry to it. Cangelosi drifts back. And the inning is over, but not before. The Braves scored 2 times on 2 hits. They leave 1. There were no errors in the inning. Bottom of the first, 2-0 Atlanta.
Come to bat. Here's the batting order. Cangelosi to lead it off. Craig Biggio will bat second. Jeff Bagwell is the third place hitter. Cleanup hitter Derek Bell. He'll be followed by Sean Berry. James Mouton will bat in the 6th spot. Ricky Gutierrez starts at short, will hit 7th. Randy Dorr is the catcher hitting 8th, and Darryl Kyle will bat 9th. The Braves defense has an outfield of Klesko in left, Grissom in center, Witten in right. The infield, McGriff at first, Lemke at second, Belliard at short, Jones at third. Javi Lopez catches. And on the mound, making his first start in the big leagues since July 22nd of '94, stylish left-hander Brad Woodall. His numbers there for Richmond. Fastball that runs probably in the upper 80s, movement away, a change of speeds pitch, a pretty good curveball. If you watch Tom Glavine, you'll see a lot of similarities when you watch Brad Woodall.
His second major league start, he appeared in, I think, 10 games in relief for Atlanta early last year. He's into the wind and dealing. Slow to John Cangelosi. Cangelosi at 291 on the year. It was 1 out of 1 last night. Woodall has never faced the Astros in his young career. There's the strength. It's 1-1. He walked just 33 men in 121 innings at Richmond. And that's good news. Strike 2 call. Change on the outside corner. Cangelosi walks away in disgust. He didn't like that call at all. 1-2 the count.
Like Glavine, his third pitch is a curveball, and also like Glavine, he'll pop it inside every now and then if he thinks that the guys are diving out over the plate to try to catch the outside pitches.
He's ahead on the count. Cangelosi drives you nuts that way. You can fool him, and he still manages to get his bat on the ball more often than not.
Well, it gives you the impression he's not trying to hit the ball fair. He's just trying to keep it out of the catcher's mitt till he gets one he can hit fair.
Two balls, 2 strikes. 2-0 Atlanta, our score, bottom of the first. We're going to try to give you the score of more than on normal tonight because of the Olympic action. 72 degrees here in the Astrodome.
50% humidity, perfect night.
Full count, 3-2.
Are we going to try to get in the temperature and the humidity more often than we normally do, too?
Yeah, we might just to rub it in.
3 balls, 2 strikes. Craig Biggio waits to hit next. He just missed. So after getting ahead, a ball and 2 strikes, Woodall walks the leadoff man.
This ballpark, if you're a control pitcher, can be your best friend. Unless the ball is hit down the line, it is awfully difficult to hit a homer here. It's 375 in the alleys, 400 to center, but it doesn't carry as well as most other places. Keep it away from the scoreboards that are in right and left field, and let this ballpark work for you. And with a 2-0 lead, I'm sure Brad Woodall did not want to walk the leadoff guy.
You see the numbers on Biggio, 1 out of 4 last night, a double and an RBI. That gets away from Javi. Tried to one-hand it. See how they score.
Hit the back of the plate and skidded, but you're right, he did try to one-hand it instead of so many times in the past we've seen him just kind of spread out and play it off his chest, but he tried to play that one like a first baseman. Still going to be a wild pitch.
Anytime it goes into the dirt, it's automatic. So Woodall, whose control is a big part of his arsenal, having trouble in that area in the early going tonight. I'm sure there are butterflies. Be nuts if there weren't. Good bunt. He beat it at first, and they're in the corner. He'd have been better off to let that ball roll. I think it would have gone foul.
I think you're right. This is one of the many ways Craig Biggio can beat you. A perfect bunt. Looks like it's drifting toward the line. Still probably with adrenaline flowing. You got to try to make it. But once he's here, see, he's a left-hander. He's got to turn all the way around. That allows Biggio to take 2 more steps while he's doing that.
That's no error on Lemke. He had the play cleanly beaten. First and third, nobody out, and 2-run lead doesn't look so big anymore as Jeff Bagwell stands in. Down and in. He's just missing. 1 ball, no strikes. If you're asking yourself, is this kid nervous? Of course he is. Pitch. Took a little off. Bagwell out in front. It's 1-1. Infield back for Atlanta, hopeful of getting a double play and sacrificing a run here. He shakes off a sack. Earth fouled away. 1-2 the count.
I like that one. That may have answered some of your questions about his being nervous. Sure, he's nervous when he went out there, but his shaking off a pitch to get what he wanted could be an indication he's getting a little bit more control of the situation. I like to see that out of a young pitcher, a guy with an idea of what he wants to do.
I'd like to see him get out of this with just a run and then maybe settle down and get going. But that's not going to happen, maybe. That's into the corner. A run is in. Biggio may score. They are going to hold him. Second and third, still nobody out. Bagwell drives in his 78th run. It's a 2-1 ball game. Still nobody out.
Tried to go with the changeup again, but this time got too much of the plate. It came in on Bagwell. Now's a good time for somebody to trot out to the middle of the diamond, either for a jolt with a battery cable or a little something to calm him down and say, hey, let's go. This is the big leagues now. You got stuff good enough to get you here. Let's pitch like you were pitching at Richmond.
Derek Bell is the batter, hitting at 284. He was 0 for 4 last night. Infield still back for Atlanta. High and away, 1 ball, no strikes.
Derek Bell in this lineup, he and Bagwell are 2 guys that would scare me the most. But Bell right now, because Brad Woodall is not a 95-mile-an-hour pitcher, and he doesn't have the 70-mile-an-hour changeup. He's somewhere in between. Bell is a great middle-speed hitter.
He hits that ball hard and fair into the corner. It's 3-2. We'll see how many Bell gets. Witten comes up with it nicely. He's at second. Still nobody out in a 3-2 game. A walk and 3 straight hits, 2 of them double. So to say it's a rough start is begging the question.
Off speed, out away from him. Bell is a guy who can hit it all over the ballpark. Chalks the right field line. A lot of times you'll say when a guy hits one just inside the line, he's lucky. That's not the case with Bell. He deliberately tries to hit it that way.
Looks like he's making that change of pace a little too fat.
I think so, and maybe picking a time when he's backing it up with one instead of giving him some pitch to take the hitter off of it. Gene Mauch used to say that there are times when you make a pitch, not that you want to get the hitter out with it, but you want to get his thinking away from the pitch that you do want to get him out with.
Cardinals have scored a run in the first. They're still batting. They lead the Cubs 1-0. Cubbies beat them last night to keep Houston 4 games back. Montreal won last night to keep Atlanta 9 games up. But Montreal is losing 4-0 tonight. Sean Berry, the hitter. A little bit low. 1 ball, no strikes. Look back on this inning. He's ahead of Cangelosi 1-2. Loses him on a walk. Who knows what would have happened if he gets him out? Maybe the same thing. Maybe not. High pop foul out of play. A ball and a strike. Barry is hitting .280, 12 homers, 58 RBIs, and he plays with a very bad shoulder. He's probably going to need surgery when this season is over, we're told. He's playing through a lot of pain and doing a good job for this club. There goes the runner to third. Throw is going to be late. Stole that off Woodall. Bell is at third. That's his 19th stolen base of the year.
You could almost predict this was going to happen. He is an aggressive base runner, and if you're Brad Woodall right now, divided attention is divided concentration is not what you're thinking about. His big problem is trying to get hitters out and just kind of ignored Bell. Remember, we say with the runner at first, that's not a bad idea. You work on the hitters, but when that runner gets in scoring position, you have to divide your attention up a little bit and not just ignore one. Bell is a tough ball player to play against.
Mike Bilecki in the Atlanta bullpen, and Barry is out on strikes. Change of pace gets him. Infield has to come in for Atlanta. So there's the first out. It comes on a strikeout. James Mouton, the batter. And the infield has to stay in. Reds have tied the Pirates 2-2, top of the third. Cincinnati still batting. Mouton stands in. There's a strike right through there, 0-1.
Remember last night we saw a throwback to John Smoltz go into center field, and we remarked that if there was a runner on base, that would not have happened because the infielders would have backed him up. Watch the next time. Both Lemke and Belliard will back up the throwback from the catcher.
0-2. So Woodall trying to rally here after a dreadful start. Runner at third, 2 out, 3 in. Got him over the inside corner with a fastball. That's a Tom Glavine pitch right there. 2 down.
Now that's pitching like we know Brad Woodall is capable of. Gets him away, and then pops one over the inside corner. Mouton has seen the scouting report, says he wants to get you out away, and he made the pitch that got the job done. If he could get out of this with no more, it would be quite a good job of damage control.
Ricky Gutierrez, the batter. That's low. 1 ball, no strikes. He's hitting an even .300. He plays every now and then. Orlando Miller plays the rest of the time, and they're both doing a good job. At shortstop for Houston. Look out. Chipper bails.
Wisely, we might add.
Indeed. That'll be in his column in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution tomorrow. He's got a diary of this road trip going.
Change up, out in front, turns it loose. Here it comes, and there he goes.
That's a kangaroo court fine, though. He should have had that bat. 1-1 the count. Bilecki about ready if needed in the Atlanta bullpen. Fouled it back. Now all of a sudden his control is excellent. 1-2. Hobby, a good play. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Yeah, that was a good stop. See how he just kind of spread out and took it off the chest protector, kept it in front of him.
I don't know if these guys have hooked up before in their career, Lopez and Woodall, and that's another little problem.
Bobby did something that you really like, though. When Woodall was warming up in the bullpen, he went down and caught the last half so he'd get a sense for what he's trying to do.
Ground ball up the middle. Oh, Belliard can't make the play. See how they score it. A runner's in. That's a playable ball. See how they score it. They're going to look at the replay.
Pretty good pitch. Got maybe a little more of the plate than he wanted. Off the side of the mound. Belliard is there, and that's a play he will make 19 times out of 20. Got the glove there, but he hit him right on the wrist. That is going to be an error.
And that takes the RBI away from Gutierrez. Randy Knorr, the batter, takes it outside. Knorr is how he pronounces it. The former Toronto catcher hitting just 161 in limited playing time. Catching is a bit of a problem for the Astros right now. Upstairs, 2-0. The score. Change of pace. Fools more. 2-1. High pop foul back and out of play. Only going to be 96 here tomorrow, huh?
Slight west wind, about 10 miles an hour. No humidity, though.
Oh, we're never not in Houston. He struck out the side, but he's not happy about it. 8 men went to bat. 4 of them scored. 3 of them earned. 4 runs, 3 hits, 1 error, 1 left. At the end of 1, 4-2 Houston.
Atlanta Braves baseball.
For Atlanta, Lopez, Belliard, and Woodall will be the first 3. 4-2 is our score. Javi 1 out of 8 in his career against Darryl Kyle. He's hitting .281. He's been a hot hitter lately, .342 in his last 10 games. Fastball inside. 1 ball, no strikes. Chopper to short and in between hop. Good play. Gutierrez throws him out. 1 down. That was a tougher play than it appeared because of the in-between aspect of the hop.
And because he took 1 step backwards.
We'll be with you at the same time tomorrow night as Greg Maddux and Donnie Wall oppose one another. And then Sports South will have the Sunday game. Tom Glavine against Doug Leavitt. High pop, first pitch. That's no surprise with rapid hitting. And 2 outs in a hurry here in the second. You're not working Sunday, huh? You'll be here watching.
Oh, yeah, I'm working. Yeah.
Just not here.
No, I'm working here. Yes, I am.
Oh, are you?
Yes, I am.
It's Wednesday. It's next Wednesday. You're not working.
Yeah, next Wednesday I'm not working.
2 out, Brad Woodall, the batter. He's 2 out of 3 in his major league career.
Doing some great research next Wednesday.
1 ball, no strikes. Yeah, they have very good libraries out in the Napa Valley, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Fast strike. 1-1. Milwaukee beating the Yankees again 2-0. They're finally playing in Boston. Red Sox lead Baltimore 1-0 in the second inning. Strike to Woodall. And Kyle looks like a different pitcher with a 2-run lead than he did at the start of the game. Throw it right by him and the inning is over. Kyle records his first strikeout. 1-2-3. Nothing doing. Bottom of the second. 4-2 Houston.
Remind you this telecast is authorized under broadcasting rights granted by the Atlanta National League Baseball Club and is intended solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, rebroadcast, or retransmission of the pictures or descriptions of this game without the express written consent of the Atlanta National League Baseball Club is prohibited. Remember when they used to say publication, rebroadcast, or retransmission of the pictures or accounts of this game?
Yeah, they used to do that.
They changed it.
New lawyer. First pitch to Darryl Kyle. Fast strike. It's 0-1. 4-2 Houston, our score. Detroit and Toronto, a wild one. 4-4 in the third. Strike right in there. 0-2 the count. Greg Bonet is one of the best ball and strike umpires in the league. Boy, is he deliberate. I'm sure he says it right away, but it takes some time to let everybody else know. Foul tip. Well, it's not held on to. It's still 0-2.
He could be a radio umpire. Could have that 7-second delay.
Yeah. That's it. Struck him out, went away. So all 4 outs have been strikeouts. That's a career high for Woodall in strikeouts, but I'm sure he's not thrilled with that. Here's John Cangelosi, who drew a walk his first time. Cardinals lead the Cubs 2-0 after an inning and a half. Cincinnati scored 4 in the third. They lead the Pirates 5-2. Pittsburgh bats in the bottom half of the inning. New York now 4-1 after 3.5 at home to Montreal. Phillies may never win again. They're losing to Florida 5-2 in the fourth. The pitch high and away, 1 ball, no strikes. They have just been decimated by them. There's a strike right in there. Cangelosi knew it. 1-1 the count. Swung later to fastball, didn't get it. A ball and 2 strikes. One out, nobody aboard. Got him. Threw a fastball by him. So Woodall is showing you a little something here after a dreadful start. He now has 5 strikeouts. Those are the only outs he's got.
And he's reaching back for a little extra on his fastball, not trying to nibble so much. He's gotten some strikeouts up in the strike zone, maybe with a little more velocity than the Astros were led to believe he had. That was right on by Cangelosi.
And Craig Biggio's the batter. He singled and scored his first time. Low, 1 ball, no strikes. Biggio at 299 on the year. The one, the delivery. Just missed again. 3-0 the count. They walked him on 4 straight, his second pass of the game. Here's Bagwell. He doubled in a run, later scored his first time up.
Made a couple of good pitches to him the last time, but then ended up getting an off-speed pitch. A little too fat, a little too much on the inside part of the plate.
Leo Mazzoni and Bobby Cox start things over in the Atlanta dugout. Bagwell at 306. A little bit inside. 1 ball, no strikes. There's a strike over the outside corner. 1-1 the count.
Got to keep an eye on Biggio. He's a great base stealer. And they throw over there right now.
And he had taken a few liberties. He had 1 foot all the way out on the turf. That's a good size lead.
One and one the count. Swung line. Belliard's got it. Inning over. He hit that one off the thumbs a little bit. And Belliard ranged to his left and made the play. No hits, no runs, no errors, 1 left. 2 innings have gone by. Houston has a 4-2 lead.
Those other 3 gentlemen for the top spot.
By the way, I thought Scott Cockrell and Roy Alford had a great shot last night of Smoltz as Wohlers struck out Wilkins to end the game. What a great reaction shot in the dugout. Grissom leads it off. He homered on the first pitch. Oddly enough, he has hit 10 leadoff home runs in his career, half of them this year. Strike at the knees. It's 1-1.
Kyle doing what he did in Atlanta, settling in. Sometimes guys are too strong when they start the ball game. Only when they tire just a little do they get really effective.
He's a lot more effective up 4-2 than he was when it was nothing.
That helps too,
yeah.
Yes.
Got it. Breaking ball. This time Kyle has the advantage. Second strikeout.
Good motion, good location, good arm speed. Watch the off-speed pitch tumble. Grissom out in front and over the top. Got him 2 ways.
Mark Lemke, the batter, he flied to deep center his first time. Curve strike. It's 0-1.
See, he was missing with that breaking ball in the first inning and getting behind in the count.
Outside. The 1-1 pitch. Here it is. Look out. Inside. 2-1. Fastball by him. It's 2-2. One out, nobody aboard here in the third. All the way to the screen. Full count on the Lemmer. 3 balls, 2 strikes. 4-2 Houston, our score. All the runs in the game came in the first. Milwaukee embarrassed the Yankees last night, and they're about to do it again. They're up 4-0 in the second, still batting. Strike 3 called to Lemke. He can't believe it. And there's a guy who never says much of anything.
No, he never complains. Tailing fastball. Nor wants it on the outside corner, gets a lot of movement, and Darryl Kyle got a little help on that one.
I guess like hitters get fooled, so do umpires. Fastball outside, 1 ball, no strikes. That ball was a foot outside. But 2 out, nobody on. Guess I better erase that walk to Lemke, huh?
Yeah, be a good idea. Might want to move it down to Chipper Jones.
Well, not yet. 3-0. Let's see if they cut him loose. 3-1. Chipper 1 out of 8 in his career against Darryl. Kyle walked and scored. Back in the first, McGriff double brought him home. There's ball 4, and there's the second walk for Kyle. And that makes the strikeout of Lemke on what we'll charitably call a borderline pitch that much more harmful. McGriff doubled in a run his first time. He's hit 4 home runs in his career against the Houston right-hander. First, 2 down. Greg Maddux, Johnny Wall tomorrow. We'll have it for you at 8 o'clock Eastern time. Then on Sunday, it'll be on the Braves Radio Network and Sports South. Tom Glavine against Doug Graybeck. Ernie Johnson, Tim Brando will have that one for you. There's Bach.
Yeah, and I bet, no, it wasn't called by Bob Davidson. I think it was called by Larry Poncino at first, and it seemed like all he did, and Doug Collins very alertly remembering, you cannot come out and argue a balk. Normally Bob Davidson is the guy. There is a term you use in sports occasionally. Darryl Kyle got hosed on that one.
Yeah, he came set, didn't he?
And we get carried away. See, the intent is if you're trying to deceive a base runner, he's not worried about Chipper Jones stealing, and that was a tacky call.
Got a base hit now and give Atlanta a run.
It's the first time this year he's had a balk called on him. He's a very deliberate pitcher. Take a look. Watch him. He stopped there. He stopped.
You know what fooled him? I think they expected him to stop higher.
Yep.
And he brought the ball down, and then in any event, McGriff waits. Check swing. Did he go? No.
That's one of the ways you're penalizing a guy for doing something within the rules. One of the ways you can help hold the base runner on is stop at a different place every time. You don't have to, nowhere does it say you have to stop at the belt. A discernible stop. And that it was.
Ground ball to second doesn't do any good. Biggio to first, and the inning is over. So no hits, no runs, no errors. And 1 left, bottom of the third, 4-2 Houston. College football game. The first base side is rooting for Houston, and the third base side is rooting for Atlanta.
It was funny last night as Wohlers is trying to close it out. If you look down the left field line, there must have been 2,000 fans from the Braves dugout to the foul line, standing like they do in Atlanta when the Braves relievers trying to shut it down.
Derek Bell leads it off. Meg Yost. Wohlers look on. Wohlers wondering if he'll get a shot tonight. A little bit low from Brad Woodall. 1 ball, no strikes. That one's thrown up by Greg Monet. Into left center. That's going to roll for a while. He's got at least 2. Let's see if he tries for 3. No, he's going to cruise into second. So Bell, who was hitless last night, 2 doubles in a row here, and early trouble in the 3rd inning for the Braves and Brad Woodall.
An aggressive hitter who likes to jump on mistakes and hit that so hard it rattled everything around here. You get it up in the strike zone to him, he can handle it. That time it was off speed and up over the plate. He's the kind of guy that's going to get a lot of extra base hits. That's his 27th double of the year. Throw in there 11 home runs. You'll see him standing at second a lot in the ball game.
And you can throw in 19 stolen bases and been caught only 3 times, and you better keep an eye on him right now. Sean Berry, the batter, and he's getting a huge lead. Belliard will try to keep him in. In fact, they got a pickoff play on almost here in the center.
There are timing plays. There are plays where you give a signal. There's also what's called a daylight play. If Belliard can get past Bell and get closer to the bag than Bell, then there'll be daylight between Belliard and Bell. And as soon as Woodall sees that, it's his cue to turn and throw.
The right-hand hitter waits and takes into the dirt. Lopez a good play to block that. 1-0 the count. 4-4 and 0 for Houston. 2-2-1 for Atlanta. Berry, a strikeout victim, his first time. There's a drive down the left field line. That's into the corner. A run is in. And it's a rough night for Brad Woodall. 5-2. The third double hit by Houston in the game. They're on the phone to the bullpen. They're not ordering a pizza.
Up in the strike zone again. Every time he's been hit hard tonight, it's been because one of those off-speed pitches was above the belt where the hitters could handle it.
It's Mike Malecki again in the bullpen, and James Mouton, the batter. Mouton hits it hard to short. Belliard to his knees to feel that rocket. Throws him out. The runner has to stay at second. Mouton doesn't win any points with his manager for pulling the ball. Ricky Gutierrez, the batter. He reached on an error his first time, and the error came from, of all people, Rafael Belliard. Curveball, a beauty, 0-1.
Did hit the ball hard, but it was a ball that lanced off of Belliard's glove hand. Took a little higher bounce than he thought. Hit him right on the heel of the glove.
Montreal has stormed back to tie New York 4-4. Mets blew a 4-run lead. A ball and a strike. Don Sutton, Skip Carey with you from Houston. The news is not good for Braves fans. It's 5-2 Astros. Hot shot. Chipper knocks it down. Belliard picks it up, throws. It's going to be late. They're on the corners, and that's a hit. That ball was ripped.
We're going to have a little brouhaha here, I think, because Greg Bonet stood straight up like he was calling time, and I think everybody flinched in the infield. Watch the home plate umpire. He wants time.
What was that?
I have no idea, but everybody in the infield flinched, including Brad Woodall. So I don't know what that was. Obviously, time was not called. Or if it was, he changed his mind and vetoed it.
He started to call it, I think, and realized it was too late, that the pitcher had gone too far. And that's going to be all for Brad Woodall, who's really down about his opening performance of '96. Mike Malecki is on, back after this.
People are much more satisfied than they have been in the past. Now, with quality care standards, we have some guidelines to follow. This is what the customers want. They want to have their appointment within a day.
Gets ready to go to work. You agree with me? That's what Bonet was trying to do. He was thinking about the hitter probably asked for time.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that before he could get it out of his mouth and say time, and there's a good chance that Gutierrez may have asked for time, but remember, a hitter cannot call time. He can only ask for it. That man right there is the only guy who can. And I really think, you hit it right on the head. He was thinking about it and said, uh-oh, it's too late, and then just went ahead with the play. But I know Chipper Jones flinched.
Randy Knorr is the batter. It's 5-2, and they've got a chance for more here. There's only one out in the inning, and runners on the corner. Knorr is a double play candidate. Popped on the right side. Witten over near the line. He's got a great arm. Here's the catch. Here he comes. Here's the throw. Great throw. He is safe. He missed the tag. Bobby Cox is going to come out and argue that one. On the play, the other runner goes to second. Great throw by Witten. You couldn't make the throw any better. The sacrifice fly and an RBI.
What Bobby is saying is he's out by that far. What he is accurate on is that the throw did beat him by that far. And I think when we show you a shot where you see where Javi Lopez is, he's inside, and he takes the, see, he took a step forward. He took himself right out of that play when he took the step toward first. It's a great throw. If he stays back on the play, look at the carry on this.
I'll tell you what.
He may have ridden him off anyway.
Like he rode him off the plate.
Great throw. But the step that Javi Lopez took toward first put him in a position where it appeared to Greg Bonet that he got past him.
So it's 6-2. Strike on the outside corner. It's 0-1. Five of the runs earned against Woodall, the runner at second. It's his responsibility as well. Ground ball up the middle. Lemke grubs it. Throws to first in time, and the inning is over. But 2 more runs on 3 hits. No errors charged. 1 left at the end of 3. 6-2 Houston. We'll give the answer in another half inning. And as we go to the 4th inning here with the play-by-play story, Don Sutton.
Robin Roberts lost it. I do remember that.
Yeah, I know he outpitched the other guy, too. It was a tough break for Robin.
It was, wasn't it?
That happened a lot to them.
To Robin Roberts?
And to the guy who is the answer to our question.
6-2 Houston, top of the 4th inning. Klesko, Witten, and Lopez due up. 6 runs, a half a dozen hits for the Astros. 2 runs, 2 hits, and 1 error for the Braves. The error cost them a run. Hiles first one outside, 1-0. Klesko first time up, hit the ball sharply, but right at second baseman Craig Biggio. Now hitting just a hair over 200 against Darryl Kyle in his career. A little bit outside, 2-0. Get one to hit here. In the air, deep to left field. On the move is Cangelosi, shy of the warning track. He'll make the play. So Klesko gets most of it, but not all of it. He'll come away empty. First out in the 4th inning, and Mark Witten is the hitter. Were you out watching batting practice today? Because normally this is not a real good hitter's park. Fred McGriff hit one in the upper deck in left field. And they were just shooting them all into the first and second deck in right field. He and Witten and Klesko. Outside 1-0.
You know what that proves?
It doesn't count in batting practice.
Well, Darryl Kyle has better stuff than Jimmy Williams.
That's true. Big curveball there. 1-1.
Oh, I just saw Lonnie Dale at the Olympics. We got a monitor here. He's carrying a kazoo.
To left field and deep. Another chance for Cangelosi. And he would have gotten about a 3.8 on that performance, but he came away with it.
He did everything except overrun that ball. He slammed on his brakes just in time, caught it down around his knees. Yeah, he's normally a center fielder.
So the first 2 outs, long fly balls, but the Braves come away empty. Here's Javi Lopez, grounded to short his first time up. Only 1 out of 9 against Kyle. Doesn't get the breaking ball. No balls in 1 strike.
There goes the wave at the Olympic Stadium, John. I know you want to see that. Oh,
2 to Lopez. Proves that event organizers can get as bored as baseball fans when there's nothing going on. Side wheeling, did he get him? Yep. David Cohn calls that the Laredo, and that's where Kyle came from. 1, 2, 3 go the Braves to the bottom of the 4th. Astros still up by 4.
Hi, I'm Payne Stewart. Everybody knows that I love to play golf. But when I'm at home, I love to work in my yard, too. And after all, who spends more time working on grass than I do?
Don Sutton, must have been a thrill to beat a great pitcher like Robin Roberts.
It really was, and he was a guy that I had patterned myself after when I was growing up. He threw strikes. He gave up solo homers. Angelosi will lead it off here in the bottom of the 4th, and there were 2 or 3 pitchers that I wanted to be like when I was a kid, and he was one, so it was a thrill just to pitch against him. Second thing that happened that road trip, that was my first road trip of my first full big league season. 1-1 to Cangelosi. Was the next day we toured NASA.
Oh, that's neat.
And at 66, you know, is a much bigger deal than it is now because going into space is such a common thing. So it was a great road trip. It was a big thrill. 1-2 to Cangelosi. And Robin Roberts, we still talk occasionally. He comes through Atlanta, and we still see each other, and he is very kind and congenial to remember that my first win was against him. A lot of guys, a lot of veteran pitchers wouldn't be so kind about it. First one goes quietly. But he is a Hall of Famer, a true class guy, and I learned a lot watching him when I was a kid. And I think that made it a lot more special than if it had been somebody I'd never heard of. 1 out for Biggio, a single, a walk, a run scored. The Astros with 4 in the 1st, 2 more in the 3rd. A short night for Brad Woodall, 2 in the 3rd innings. 6 hits, 6 runs, 5 of them earned. He walked 2, but he did strike out 5, including the side in the 1st inning. This one, the Biggio, is a strike. No balls and 1 strike. Good breaking ball from Bielecki. Bielecki has looked sharp. He's done a good job for the Braves. His earned run average now should be dropping down maybe a hair below the 3 mark. 0-2 still.
Let me ask you a question. If you get fired tomorrow, how would you like to spend Labor Day at Wrigley Field watching the Braves play the Cubs anyway?
I don't think so.
Well, if you did, all you'd have to do is call 1-800-700-CHOP and subscribe to Chop Talk, and you can find out how to get there.
Wait a minute, you still get paid if you're fired, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure, why not?
We'll have dinner.
Another strikeout. Joe Bielecki is phase 4. He is set down 4. And Bagwell will bat with 2 gone.
Yeah, Mike looks good here. Things don't improve for the other guys. He's going to be that 5th starter by Hooker Crooks.
Showing a good breaking ball tonight. Picked up 3 or 4 miles more on his fastball than he had his last time through here. He'll get himself a pretty good test right here with Bagwell, though. Bagwell doubled in the 1st inning. Drove in 1, then scored, and hit the ball right on the nose right at Belliard the next time up. The first one was wide, and it's 1-0. Curveball again, a perfect spot. Bagwell 4 out of 14 in his career against Mike Bielecki. 2-1. Good cut, but he fouls it away. Got that one in on his hands a little. That'll even it at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Got him. A generous strike zone, and Bagwell's not going to be real happy with the call. It's an argument he won't win. 1, 2, 3 go the Astros. 5 in a row set down by Lecky. We have completed 4. It's still 6-2 Astros.
Atlanta Braves baseball, brought to you by Pep Boys, everything but gas, and by the private issue card.
Who painted it?
A titan.
He's a giant in his field.
Yes, and he's scoring points with me.
How'd they ever guess it was me?
The private issue card painted by Patrick Ewing. Call 1-800-4PI-CARD and own an original.
Present. Fly to right his first time up. There's a look at D. White. Terrell Wade is tuning it up down the left field line in the Braves bullpen. On the ground. Gutierrez, long throw, good throw, safe. That's about everything you could want to do. Everybody did their job just right. And Belliard with the head-first dive beats it for an infield single.
You like that head-first slide? I think you get there quickly, or more quickly if you keep running. He makes a great, great play to even make this close.
I think one thing it does, it makes it harder to call it. But I think most people will tell you you move faster on your feet than you do on your belly.
I'm not so sure, but what they didn't have it. But
here's Dwight Smith. So Bilecki had himself a good night. He went an inning and 2/3, striking out 2. By the way, now he has 16 strikeouts in his last 12 innings. Dwight Smith at 224 for the year. As a pinch hitter, 11 for 42 with 3 homers. Towards second, could be 2. Biggio to Gutierrez. Gutierrez to Bagwell. Pitcher's best friend, 2 for the price of 1. A ground ball double play. 4-6-3 if you're keeping score.
no doubt about this, on the turf, it gets out there so quickly. Goyard did all he could do, but they had him by a step and a half. Throw a little high, but Bagwell able to hang on.
So 2 outs in the inning as we go to the top of the batting order. Marquise Grissom led off the game with a home run, struck out his next time up. Braves struck first. They had a 2 spot on the board before Brad Woodall went out there. That's going to get into center field. Second hit of the night for Marquise Grissom.
And 118 on the year as he shoots for 200.
Well on the way to doing it. Mark Lemke will bat. He slid to center, struck out looking. He was rung up on a fastball that was in the neighborhood of the strike zone, maybe in the same subdivision.
But definitely on the other side of the development.
Miller sets up outside again. Curveball drops in there, backdoors him for strike 1. Skip Carey, Don Sutton with you for one more out. Then Pete Van Weer and Joe Simpson will be over for the second half. Grissom with 15 steals, but probably won't be running down by 4. 1-1. Not a whole lot that man can do right there when you're down by 4. So you get a few base runners. Grissom at first, 2 gone. 6-2 Astros. Three straight breaking balls, and it's 2-1. slows the pace down a little bit with a runner on base.
Notice that.
It's a good spot there, 2-2. By the way, Joe Simpson, I want to thank Bill Worrell, one of the fine announcers here for the Astros, also the play-by-play voice of the Houston Rockets, taking us out to one of the finest golf courses in the Southwest, Brayburn here in Houston. For a nice day today. There goes Grissom. There goes Lemke. Grissom will pull up short. Lemke will head back to the dugout. Braves get a base runner. He's erased on the double play, and they leave that one stranded right there. We're halfway home at 6-2 Astros.
Relief pitchers to hold Houston where they are and hope the Braves can get something going against Darryl Kyle, but he's settled down after a shaky start himself.
Throwing his curveball over for strikes, and his out pitch, of course, his split finger pitch, and that's been very effective. And third pitcher of the night for the Braves will be Terrell Wade, who makes his 27th appearance. You see a great ERA there, 1.32. He has a save. The league only hitting .216 against him. 15 walks, 29 strikeouts. And he will face Derek Bell, who's 2 for 2 tonight. But 2 doubles, 2 runs scored, and 2 RBIs. He may begin to wear his baseball pants right down on his shoe tops from now on, Pete.
And he's the man of 1,000 looks and 1,000 stances.
And if you get something that's working, then you're going to stay with it. Bell, Biggio, Bagwell, and Barry having a good night.
And the amazing part about Jeff Bagwell, I was talking with Larry Dierker, one of the Houston announcers, before the game. When Bagwell got that double in the first inning, it really got the rally going for the Houston Astros. Back on June 17th, he was leading the National League with 26 doubles. He came into this game tonight on July 19th with 26 doubles. He had gone over a month without a 2-base hit, and that's hard to believe for Bagwell. And that got the barrage of doubles started.
Yeah, he peppered that down the line and pitched down and into him. Derek Bell has bumped his average up to 288. The 1-2 pitch, fouled back. Bell was 0 for 4 last night. Had a lot of socks showing on his uniform. Had his pants tucked right up under his knees. I guess he decided that was not the look that he was going to carry into tonight's game. Behind in the count, he widens the stance. 2-2.
But it matters not how many looks he employs or how many stances he employs. He is out there every night battling it. He's a tough, tough competitor.
One of my favorite players in the National League. Plays hard, sometimes makes some aggressive mistakes, but always hustles. 3-2. Couldn't find a place to play in Toronto. Didn't have room for him. Came up in their system.
He was a part of a large number of outfielders at the time who,
right,
Mark Whitten, Toronto. Mark Whitten, another one.
Good pitch by Terrell Wade. Got him to chase a bad one, but it's in the dirt. Javi Lopez has to throw him out. First strikeout for Terrell Wade. And the first time Bell has been set down.
And as you mentioned, Joe, he's a very aggressive player, very aggressive there. That was a horrible pitch. But he just had his mind made up on that 3-2 pitch that he was going to go for it if it was over the plate. That much of it was. It was over the plate.
Well,
it was almost on the plate.
He has struck out a lot. That's number 79 on the year. Sean Berry has had a good night. He struck out in the first, but doubled in a run and scored in the third. It's a bouncer to Belliard. He's going to have to hurry, and he guns it over there. Did he get him? He did. And Sean Berry comes up limping. He's battling a sore shoulder, and I don't know what he did here running down the line, but let's watch.
Well, he's running hard down the line. Belliard really hurries the throw, and you can see right as he hit the bag there that something was bothering him, but he appears to be okay now as he heads back to the Houston dugout, or at least if it is a problem, it does not appear to be a serious one. He's even chuckling as he gets to the Houston dugout. Maybe it was that shin guard that he wears that
could have been.
Was irritating him as he ran down the line.
James Mouton is 0 for 2. Terry Collins looking up and down his dugout, almost like he's looking for somebody else to play third, maybe Billy Spires. 0 and 2 now to Mouton.
Here's another look at Barry running down the line. It appears to be having no troubles until right there you can see him grimace about 1 step shy of the bag at first.
That looked muscle related. In the dirt, 1 and 2 to Mouton. Six to 2, Houston. We're in the bottom half of the 5th inning. Fastball missed a little down and in. Evens the count at 2 and 2. Mouton led off last night when 1 for 4. Dropped to the 6th hole tonight. Struck out, grounded out. Inside, full count. Terrell Wade got ahead of him, and now 1 pitch away from losing him. Mouton in the 8th inning last night looked like he had answered Fred McGriff's homer with one of his own, and it just slipped foul past the pole. Time called as Wade was into the windup.
This is Terrell's first appearance since July 5th when he pitched against Houston back in Atlanta. We've been 2 weeks.
Bouncer simply short. Belliard charges, throws on the hop and got him. Got a fast runner. Terrell Wade with some good relief work. Malecki was perfect. Terrell Wade set down 3 in a row. We go to the 6th. 6 to 2 Astros.
The biggest night of movies on television on the biggest night.
Bagwell and Sean Berry each driving in runs with RBI doubles. And it's 6 to 2 Houston. And as we go to the 6th inning, a new third baseman, Sean Berry, is out of the game. Orlando Miller in, Joe.
Chipper Jones has walked twice and scored a run, and he sends the first pitch of the inning to Bagwell. He'll take it to the bag himself. 1 pitch, 1 out. Bullpen's doing a good job, Pete. Malecki retired all 5 batters he faced. Terrell Wade, all 3 he faced in the 5th inning.
And I guess we really shouldn't be surprised because with all the headlines and all the talk that the Braves starting pitching generates, the Braves bullpen this year has a better earned run average right now than the starting rotation does. Bullpen 3.23 coming into this game. The starting rotation 3.35.
Tough duty for the offense, though, against Darryl Kyle. 2-0, a 2.54 ERA in his last 5 starts with 2 complete games, including a gem against Atlanta. Fred McGriff doubled in a run in the 1st inning, grounded out the 2nd and the 3rd. He is 13 for 30 against Houston pitching this year with 3 home runs.
Well, back to Kyle. They've got the starting pitching to win their division. There's no question about that, especially if Doug Drabek has a good second half. It's their bullpen that they've got to get straightened out.
2-1 to Fred. No question about it. But Todd Jones on the disabled list today, called Dean Hartgrave's backup.
And a lot of talk that the general manager, Jerry Hunsaker, is making a lot of phone calls trying to see if he can find an available relief pitcher.
I think they've got... Xavier Hernandez could close for him. Wagner could close for him. He looked sharp last night if they chose to use that young left-hander that way. Fred hits one on the ground. Bagwell's got that one. This time he'll toss to Kyle. 2 out.
Good description I heard before the game, though, on Billy Wagner, who they think is going to be a starting pitcher for them in the future, and a good one. And he's done a pretty good job in save situations this year, but I heard a quote prior to the game tonight that said Billy Wagner is a possibility, but he is just a test model, doesn't have any miles on him yet. They want one of those tested guys who's been around a few years, who's been in those situations, especially come September.
Brian Klesko sent Cangelosi back to the wall his last time up, 0 for 2. 2-0. Braves have 4 hits. 2 came in the first, 2 came in the 5th. Braves are down by 4. Let's see if Bobby turns Plesko loose with 2 out. Mark Whitten waits on deck. He's taking. It's 3-1. That one hard. Bagwell's been a busy man. He handles all 3 of them flawlessly. And the Braves go in order again here in the 6th inning. 3 up and 3 down. We go to the bottom of the 6th. Bottom third of the order up for the Astros. They lead it 6-2. The Astros lead it 6-2. And in the bottom of the 6th inning, Terrell Wade will face Ricky Gutierrez, Randy Knorr, and then Darryl Kyle. Gutierrez really robbed of a hit in the first inning on a hard hit ball up the middle that Belliard knocked down. It was ruled an error, and he lost an RBI on it. But then came back and got a single in the 3rd inning. Takes high to start the inning. Ball 1. The Astros 23-19 at home. They've lost 5 in a row, including the loss here at home last night. 2-0 to Gutierrez. You know, the one thing we always heard about Terrell Wade in the minor leagues, Skeet, was that, you know, his control was a little inconsistent. Strike a lot of guys out, walk a lot of guys. We haven't seen that inconsistency.
No, and it's surprising because pitching out of the bullpen, you would think you might see that even more.
He has done a terrific job.
He has been a starting pitcher throughout his minor league career, and the transition to the bullpen at the major league level sometimes doesn't work like it has for him.
Full count. To Gutierrez leading off the 6th inning. Hit hard to center. Grissom got turned around. Now has to go hard, but he's there and makes the catch. He started back to his right and then turned back to his left. But no trouble for Marquise. Talking to him before the game, Pete, on a pregame radio interview, he said to me, "I'm having fun. You know, the pressure's off. We've won a championship." He said, "I got no contract hassle." He said, "All I got to do is play baseball, and I'm having a good time."
That's the way it should be.
Yeah. Here's Randy Knorr. Struck out, hit a sacrifice fly, and takes a strike. Sacrifice fly turned out to be a sacrifice fly when Greg Bonet missed the call at the plate. It's 1-1.
Fred McGriff just said something to Mark Whitten in right field. Now, Betty told him if he hits a line drive to right, I'm going to first. Because Randy Knorr can't run at all. He had a shot at getting him.
2-1 the count. Terrell overthrew that pitch a little bit.
You know, when you talk about starting pitchers of the future for Atlanta, depending on what happens with the free agents at the end of the year, you can't rule this guy out.
Oh, no.
Because his background, as we said, was as a starting pitcher, and he's getting his feet on the ground at the major league level now in the bullpen, but could very easily move back to the rotation if the Braves don't re-situate their smokes.
Belliard an easy chance and throws him out 2 down. I asked him about that not so long ago and asked him if he still had his eye on starting when the opportunity came up, and he was really non-committal. He said, "I'm happy doing what I'm doing." He said, I'm trying to do my job the best I can, and if they want me to do something different, then I'll tackle that. But I'm very happy right where I am right now.
That's the right attitude to have when you're a rookie.
Absolutely. Darryl Kyle pops it up. He has no idea where the ball went. now starts to run, but McGriff makes the catch and the inning over. 6 in a row set down by Wade. Bullpen doing their job. The offense has got to get going. It's 6-2 Astros. Eastern time. Darryl Kyle will face Whitten, Lopez, and Belliard here in the 7th. And to take you the rest of the way, here's Pete.
Okay, thank you, Joe. That's what Darryl Kyle has done. Most of that damage, in fact, all the run damage came in the very first inning. And he has really settled down since then. He has allowed only 2 hits in shutting out the Braves since the first. Mark Whitten will lead it off. Brad Klontz is up in the Atlanta bullpen. The pitcher's spot due up 4th. So if we get that far, we'll see a pinch hitter. Whitten tonight has flied to left twice. It's a breaking ball, strike in the inside corner. Kyle really has changes of speeds in his pitches between his fastball, his forkball, and his curveball. They post the speeds occasionally on the scoreboard here. Houston pitches fouled away. And his fastball's in the 93, 94, 95 range. His forkball's in the 84, 85 range. His curveball's in the 77, 78 range. He gives you 3 different pitches you really have to look for. Look at the difference there between the curve and the fastball.
Key for him is getting ahead in the count.
Little chopper toward short. Gutierrez over the first in time.
I mean, that's the key for any pitcher. That's pretty obvious, but when he's got to throw his fastball and the hitter knows it's the fastball and no chance of him throwing the split finger pitch or the curveball, then he's hittable. And that hurt him in the first inning when Marquise jumped on the first pitch and Fred placed one to left center.
One gone. Here's Javi Lopez, who has grounded out to short and struck out, looking for his first hit of the series. He's now 0 for 6 in the first game and a half of this one. Another chopper left side. Gutierrez, a long throw over the head of Bagwell. It hits the railing of the Houston dugout and bounces back to Randy Norris, so no further advance possible by Javi Lopez. And that'll probably go as a base hit at will.
Gutierrez tried to smother that high hop off the turf and come down and throw all in one motion. He's got a very strong arm, but this one got away from him in his haste. And a base hit for Javi Lopez, the result.
And now Bobby Cox going to his bench for a pinch hitter for Rafael Belliard. Ed Giovanola hitting .227 with no homers, 2 RBIs. He is 3 out of 9 as a pinch hitter. And Jermaine Dye has moved out on deck to bat for Terrell Wade. One out. Lopez at first. They're not going to hold him there, with the Astros owning a 4-run lead at the moment. One ball, no strikes on Giovanola.
Eddie's a good low ball hitter. He's patient, waits for one of those breaking balls down, and Eddie might rake one.
9 away, 2-0 the count. One man out. Lopez getting a good lead over at first since he's not being held. 2-0 pitch to Giovanola, who's popped foul back on a play. The count goes to 2-1. Now the 2-1 pitch on the way to Giovanola, and it's high and outside. Ball 3, 3-1.
Must be the makings of a good thing for the Braves. Giovanola can reach, give Dye a chance to come up there in one swing of the bat, put him back in it. They've got to bunch some hits together.
Now a 3-1 pitch on the way, and Giovanola fouls it straight back, full count 3-2.
We had a good hack at that one.
Kyle's control tonight has been pretty good. He's only walked 2. Full count 3-2. We'll see if Lopez is running. He's going to be able to get a big lead since they continue not to hold him. He is not going. Strike 3 call in the outside corner, and Giovanola knew it. He was looking for something else. Strikeout number 6 for Darryl Kyle.
That was an outstanding curveball. Too close to take. Bonet rings him up. Outstanding backdoor breaking pitch.
2 outs now with a runner at first, and Jermaine Dye on the pinch hit for Terrell Wade. Jermaine at .317, 5 homers, 15 RBIs. And he has contributed in this role, too, as a pinch hitter this year. He's 2 for 3. 2 outs, a runner at first. One ball, no strikes. Braves got 2 in the first. Houston came back with 4 in their half, added 2 in the 3rd inning, and that's where we stand. Still 6-2. We're now in the top of the 7th with 2 outs, a runner at first. A 1-0 pitch. 2 there for a called strike. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Be patient. Look for something to drive here.
Here's the 1-1. 2-1. This will be Kyle's 100th pitch of the night. Here's the 2-1 delivery. Outside corner, says Greg Bonet. Dye, not too sure about that one. 2-2.
And he's still with 100 pitches under his belt already, or still has some pretty good zip on the fastball.
Terry Collins' bullpen has been letting him down so much of late. He'll go as far as he can with Kyle. Here's the 2-2 pitch. Popped him up into shallow right field. A little deeper than it looked at first, but it's going to be playable for Derek Bell. And that's all for Atlanta in the 7th. They leave a runner. We go to the 7th inning stretch here in Houston with the Astros still on top, 6-2. Quantz making his 49th appearance of the year, relieving Terrell Wade. Wade worked 2 innings, faced 6 hitters, got them all out, struck out 1. And leading it off for the Astros here in the 7th, John Cangelosi, who has walked, struck out, and grounded out. First pitch swinging, base hit right field. Cangelosi, who is as pesky a hitter as there is in the league against the Braves. On base with a leadoff single there in the bottom of the 7th.
First runner to reach against the Braves bullpen.
When Mike Bilecki took over in the 3rd, he got the final 2 outs, all 3 in the 4th. Wade retired 6 in a row, so the bullpen had a string of 11 straight before that base hit. And here's Biggio. Single in the 1st inning, walked and struck out his next 2 appearances. Over to first goes Quantz. Back safely is Cangelosi. This Houston team very aggressive on the base paths.
That they are.
Cangelosi with 14. They've got Bagwell, Bell, Biggio, Cangelosi, Brian Hunter, who's on the disabled list right now, and James Mouton, all in double figures with stolen bases. Again, the first, almost to that one by Fred McGriff.
115 stolen bases as a team. In fact, 116 now with Bell. A stolen base tonight. They've only been caught 40 times.
With a big lead is going. There's the pitch out. The throw by Lopez. Giovanola applies the tag. And Eric Gregg rings him up. So the Braves sniffed that one out. And Cangelosi has gone down for only the 6th time this year.
He had a huge lead. Look at that. He was astride the cutout over there, well out on the turf. And Javi Lopez, not only did they have a pitch out, but he jumped out there almost in front of home plate to take that pitch.
Base is empty now with 1 man out, a count of 1 ball, no strikes on Biggio. 39,390. Very good crowd for the Houston Astros tonight. And they're expecting big crowds all weekend. They've got heavy promotions going on this weekend. The Braves are in town. That always draws a lot of Braves fans here. Here's the 1-1. Takes the pitch out of the strike zone. 1-2. Here's the 1-2 offering. Sharply hit left field. Base hit by Biggio. Well, that caught stealing looms a little larger now as Biggio reaches, but there's 1 out.
Well, send him. Give up some hits, send the runner, throw him out.
8th hit of the night for Houston.
One of the pitches outside, and it came back down and in to Biggio.
Now Jeff Bagwell, who doubled in a run in the 1st inning. Since then, he's lined out to short and struck out. Biggio aboard. He has 17 stolen bases this year. With Clowns with that sidearm delivery, you see a lot of teams running him a lot because it takes him some time from here to here. There's a strike to Bagwell, 0-1.
Yes, it does take him a little while to get unfurled, if you will. Saw Bagwell pulling at his cheek a little bit. He wears contact lenses. And just a few minutes ago, and I can see the flags fluttering now. They turned on the air conditioning here. Maybe that breeze giving him some problems with the plate.
He was having some vision problems, but he thinks it's because of maybe some allergies. Playing in some of the hot weather cities when they were on the road trip. Here's the 1-1. In the dirt. Lopez has done a nice job tonight. He saved Brad Woodall on 4 or 5 occasions when he was in there. And he blocked that one. Keep the runner at first. 2-1 the count on Bagwell.
So if the Braves have any shot in their last 2 at-bats of catching up, they can't afford to give the Astros any more runs.
Over to first, and this one does get away from Fred McGriff, and not far enough for Biggio to go anywhere.
That's 3 bad throws.
And they've all been in about the same spot over on the home plate side of first. Home run cut by Bagwell comes up empty. 2-2.
Yeah, it's not hard to separate his home run cuts from his.
It's not.
You pretty well know when he's going for it.
He told a story when he first came up to the major leagues with Houston, and remember, he had been a Red Sox farmhand. Runner going, the pitch low, the throw. He did not get him this time. Stolen base by Biggio. Number 18 of the year. And the count full now, 3-2 on Bagwell. But Bagwell's first 2 years in professional baseball in the Red Sox organization. First, another look at the Biggio steal. Big jump.
Got a good jump. Hobby, not much he could do about it.
He had only hit 6 home runs in 2 seasons of minor league baseball, and everybody that looked at him felt he was going to be a good hitter in the major leagues, possibly a batting champ someday, but he didn't show much power in the minor league. That came after he got to the major leagues. And even though he was doing great in the minor leagues, hitting over 300, and doing very well when he first came to the big leagues, and he lines on the right field. They're going to hold the runner at third out of respect for Mark Whiten's arms. He said it was his mother who drove him nuts, saying, how come you don't hit more home runs?
No kidding.
How come you don't hit more home runs? Kept saying that to him. And he said that wasn't necessarily the only reason that I got bigger and stronger and began hitting for power. He said, but I'm glad I do have that power now because she's kind of leaving me alone lately.
Why are you hitting home runs? Because Mom told me to.
Well, Brad Klontz trying to get out of trouble here. One man out. He's given up 3 straight hits. The caught stealing saved him a run. He's got first and third now with 1 down. And the dangerous Derek Bell. There was a pair of doubles tonight, a pair of runs scored, a pair of RBIs. He's also struck out.
Dangerous is right because he won't hesitate or he won't flinch at all on that sidearm delivery. He'll hang in there and try to hit the ball to right field if he has to.
He does lead their team in grounding into double plays. He's done so 11 times this year. So a ground ball, he might be able to get 2 here. And that's what Brad Klontz needs. 1 ball, no strikes. 6 runs, 9 hits for the Astros. 2 5-1 for Atlanta. There are your runners. Biggio at third, Bagwell at first. 1-0 pitch to Bell. Foul back, 1 ball, 1 strike.
When he gets his ball to sink, that's why he gets some double plays.
The runners lead from the corners. And here's the 1-1. 2-1.
You watch Derek Bell in these situations. There's almost no stride and almost no movement at all in his front foot unless he rocks it up on the ball of his foot and he just sets it down.
Here's the 2-1 on the way, and it's a breaking ball outside. 3-1 now on Bell. Orlando Miller waiting on deck. Fouled away. Full count now, 3-2, and we'll see if they send the runner at first. Bagwell here. In all likelihood, they will, up by 4. And being a very aggressive base running team.
And as you mentioned, he's got 16 stolen bases, but somebody's got to cover. The infield drawn in a little bit, but if they strike him out, they'd like to throw out Bagwell and get out of the inning.
There goes Bagwell. 3-2 pitch, bouncing ball toward short. Giovanola's only play is going to be on to first. A run scores. Biggio on contact, broke for home and scores. The Astros' 7th run of the night, and there was no place else to go for Giovanola. RBI number 3 of the night, number 74 of the year for Derek Bell. 7-2 Houston. Bagwell winds up at second.
Used their speed this inning, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
This is a very typical Houston inning. No home runs. Not a whole lot, unlike the first inning when they got 4 on a couple of doubles, had a stolen base that inning. Used a walk to get it all started.
First at bat of the night for Orlando Miller, batting .268. 10 homers, 40 RBIs, and takes a strike in the inside corner, 0-1. 7-9-0 for Houston now, 2-5-1 for the Braves. We're in the bottom half of inning 7. Braves and Houston have battled on just about even terms this year. This is the 8th meeting between these two clubs. Braves have won 4. Astros have won 3.
They're a good ball club, Pete. You were talking about them earlier about how they shore up their bullpen. They're, I think, the team to beat because of their starting pitching.
A ball and 2 strikes now in Miller.
In the Central Division, I'm talking about. You know, and that's why the Cardinals, I think, have made their climb. Yes, they're getting good play from their outfielders, especially in St. Louis, but their starting pitching has come together as well.
Donovan Osborne, a great story for them this year.
Osborne's been outstanding. The acquisition of Todd Stottlemyre, and maybe the competition with his brothers helped Andy Bennis a little bit because Allen has pitched well, too.
1 ball, 2 strikes on Miller, 2 men out. Bagwell down at second. And the 1-2 to Miller, grounded toward third, right at Chipper Jones. Over to first. High throw. Pulled McGriff off the bag, but he swipe tagged Miller going by for out number 3. But the Braves bullpen does give up a run here in the bottom half of the 7th, and it's now 7-2 Houston as we go to inning number 8.
Eighth inning and time to take a look at the Florida beat Philadelphia 11-2. Devon White a home run there. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh going at it. It's all red so far. Montreal's come back. They have the lead now going to the bottom of the 9th at New York. St. Louis got 2 in the first. So far that's enough against the Cubbies. LA at San Francisco, Colorado at San Diego later on. We'll give the American League in just a bit.
Marquise Grissom, who homered to lead off the game and has singled and struck out since, leads off here in the 8th, 0-1. Grissom now 294 for the year. 2 hits tonight, giving him 118 for the season. His quest this year is for 200 hits. 0-2.
I was asking him about Jermaine Dye and how nice it is to have, even though he's a young player, a guy next to him when Jermaine's playing that knows what he's doing. And he was talking about Dye's instinct.
Got him. Outside corner. Another strikeout for Darryl Kyle. That's his 7th of the night.
Nothing but high praise for the young player. In the American League tonight, home runs from Kenny Lofton and Giles for Cleveland, Brian Giles. But that's not enough as Minnesota leads there. Home run for Mo Vaughn is 29th tonight for Boston. Cecil Fielder's hit his 22nd tonight. Milwaukee all over New York again. Chicago and Kansas City.
Lemke first pitch swinging. Biggio runs it down to his left on the first in time. Mark is now 0 for 8 in this series.
Oakland's playing at Texas tonight. Mark McGuire's hit his 32nd home run for Oakland. Rodriguez and Gonzalez have homered for the Rangers. For Gonzalez, his 26th, and he's been on a tear. Seattle and California a little bit later. They had some bad news today about Randy Johnson.
Yeah, he got set back. The rehab start did not work out for him. Here's Chipper Jones. A couple of walks and a ground out tonight. Two outs, base is empty here in the 8th inning. I think I said Lemke was 0 for 8 in the series. He's 0 for 9 in the series. He was 0 for 5 in last night's game. 1 ball, 1 strike. The count now on Chipper Jones. Braves have not had many like this year where they've been down by a bunch. If they've been held to 2 runs, usually they're in a 3-2 or 4-2 kind of game. They have a chance to come back and win, but they need to rally in a hurry here. It's 7-2. 2-1 the count.
But again, they've run into a tough pitcher. Gave him only 1 run in Atlanta. Gave up 2 in the first, but that's been it.
Bagwell has handled every one of those tonight. 1, 2, 3 go the Braves in the 8th. Bottom half of the 8th inning coming up. Still 7-2 Houston. 7-2 Houston lead as we go to the bottom of the 8th. Pedro Borbon has taken over on the mound to become Atlanta's 5th pitcher of the night, replacing Brad Clance, who worked in inning, gave up 3 hits and a run. Borbon making his 27th appearance of the year.
Hasn't Drayton McClain, the owner of the Astros, put an August 1st or August 4th deadline for a proposal on a new retractable roof stadium here?
Yeah, and you wonder if anything like that's going to happen, because the National League wants very much for this team to succeed in Houston. Major League Baseball does, because of the size of the market for television and everything else. But with the economy, I don't know if you're going to be able to get the money to build a retractable roof stadium. That's a very expensive proposition.
I don't know how you could play baseball here, frankly, Pete, without the dome.
They used to, and they had the minor league team here, and before they had the dome built, when the Major League club used to play in the old expanded minor league ballpark. And some of the people that played in the Texas League days when Houston was a Double-A club used to say it was just unbearably hot, and also mosquitoes.
Right.
4:45. Here's the 1-2. 2-2 the count. Bottom half of the 8th inning. 2-2 on the way, and it's not foul. Back out of play. Still 2-2.
I called it a deadline because that's what the paper called it that Mr. McLean had established, because he was saying that if there wasn't something in the works for a new stadium, then he would shop the ball club to other places.
And that stadium situation, yes, there have been a lot of new stadiums built in some of the major league cities, and the Braves will get a new one next year with the new Olympic Stadium. It'll be reconfigured for baseball. But even some of the places that have been talked about as possible future sites. First of all, Mouton hits one to short, Giovanolo over to first in time. And I'm speaking specifically of the Northern Virginia area. They have had a real difficult time finding an area that is acceptable to all the different parties to build a new stadium if they're to make a bid for a team like Houston. So it's not just raising the money. It's, of course, out here there's so much land. I think they'd have any trouble finding a spot out here in Houston or in Texas to build one. But in some of the other markets that are trying to get Major League Baseball, they're having difficulty coming up with a site. Strike in the outside corner to Ricky Gutierrez. He's 1 for 3 tonight. Houston 7, Atlanta 2 are in the bottom half of the 8th. 1 ball, 1 strike. And now the 1-1 offering. Bone blew that one right by Gutierrez, 1 and 2.
They never seem to find any problem getting prospective buyers, though, do they?
No, they don't. Nor do they have any trouble finding cities that would like to get Major League Baseball, even though you wonder sometimes how many markets can sustain a Major League franchise. But now, you know, you've got Northern Virginia that wants one very much. Charlotte is a city that in the future may be thinking one day about Major League Baseball. Tampa Bay and Phoenix, of course, will be getting their clubs in a couple of years. Sacramento is an interested party very much in getting a Major League team. Buffalo. Washington, D.C. for that Northern Virginia thing. And it would not surprise me, Joe, to even start hearing Mexico City.
Well, I'm with Major League Baseball. I'd hate to see baseball leave Houston also. I mean, it's the number 4 market, television market in America. The population is here. It's just a matter of the people supporting a team that right now is extremely competitive.
Now to first goes Gutierrez with a walk. First walk issued by Bourbon. Third walk issued by Braves pitching. And the batter will be Randy Knorr. Yeah, I agree. I think that this city certainly deserves Major League Baseball. They're going to lose their football team, it appears, to Nashville. And there's another city, Nashville. If the football team succeeds there, will they go after a baseball team next? Knorr lines one to left field. Pesco's going to have to play this one in the second half. Bobbles it momentarily, but not long enough for the runner to move any further. Gutierrez stopping at second. First and second now with 1 out. Darrell Kyle will hit for himself here.
Randy Knorr's had a good night with the sacrifice fly and the base hit. He needed that. Some bad news in the game. Kansas City at Chicago. Chad Kruder of the White Sox was catching tonight. There was a collision at the plate. I'm not sure with what other player, but he was knocked out of the game. He has suffered a severe dislocation of the left shoulder with multiple fractures.
Oof.
And will have to undergo surgery, obviously, out for the rest of the year.
Kyle tonight 0 for 3 in a bunt situation here. Gets the bunt down. It's a good one. Pedro Bourbon looks toward third. Now goes to first in time. 1-4 on the sacrifice by Kyle. And the Astros trying to pad their lead here. We'll try to do it with a 2-out hit from John Cangelosi.
5-run lead in the 8th. No, maybe not that unusual, especially when you're playing the Braves with the thunder they can throw out there. The middle of the lineup due up in the 9th inning, but Terry Collins losing 5 in a row. He wants to make sure he's got enough runs going to the 9th.
Cangelosi tonight has walked, struck out, grounded out, and singled. His leadoff walk at the 4-run first inning started for Houston. 1 ball, no strikes.
I don't know what part that played in the first inning, but Woodall started by getting ahead of him in the count and then lost him. And then a single and 2 doubles later. Braves are behind.
That's in for a strike. 1-1. That's a final now in New York. The Montreal Expos, who trailed 4-0 after 3, came back to win that game 5-4. So if the Astros hold on here, the Braves lead will be reduced to an 8-game margin over the Expos.
Mike Lansing hit a homer in the 7th for the game winner.
All the peaks and valleys teams go through in the course of the season. The New York Mets had gotten to within 4.5 games of Montreal when that series began yesterday, and there was an article in one of the New York papers today talking about all of a sudden the Mets in contention for a wild card spot. Now they're 6.5 back because they've dropped 2.5, or they've dropped 2 rather in a row to Montreal. Final back 2-2. That's what it looked like going into tonight in Florida. All of a sudden, with their win tonight, they have caught the Mets. So they're going to move into a 3rd-place tie with New York. And maybe they'll be the team, the way they're playing right now, making the next run at the Expos.
And the Braves, the first team in baseball to win 60 games.
Here's the 2-2, and Cangelosi takes strike 3 call in the outside corner. Bourbon records his first strikeout. And we go to the 9th inning here at the Astrodome.
Starring Patrick Dempsey. That's coming up next here on TBS.
We go to the 9th inning. Darrell Kyle, who pitched a complete game victory against the Braves in Atlanta, trying to do the same thing tonight here in Houston. Got out to a very shaky start. Very first pitch of the game, Marquise Grissom homer. But how many times, Joe, have you seen a pitcher do that? Give up a home run to the leadoff hitter in the first inning, and maybe struggle a little bit then, and then settle down.
Oh, we've seen Braves pitchers do it.
Yes, we have.
On many an occasion, they've given up some leadoff homers or a home run in the first inning. Looked like maybe they didn't have their best stuff, and suddenly, game turned around. They got some runs to work with and pitched brilliantly, as Kyle has.
He has given the Braves only 3 hits since that first inning. He has walked only 2 tonight. Fred McGriff had a run-scoring double in the first. His only hit in 3 at-bats. This one headed for the seats down the left field line. Nothing in 1 to count.
Well, think of the hits he's given up, too, since the first inning. He gave up that base hit to Belliard, an infield hit where he dove head first into first base. He gave up a bouncer that bounced about 15 times over the mound to Grissom for a base hit, and then Lopez with his infield hit. That's it.
He has been truly in command since that first inning. The 0-1. Outside, 1 ball, 1 strike. No activity in the Houston bullpen. As Kyle goes for his 4th complete game, which would tie him for the league lead. 2-1.
With time with, among other people, John Smoltz, Jimmy Navarro, and Kevin Brown.
Here's the 2-1. And that catches the corner. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Now the 2-2 offering. From a breaking ball missed inside. Full count now. 3-2 on McGriff. Ball gets by Bagwell into right field. Well, a good start to the top half of the 9th inning. Fred McGriff with a leadoff single, his 2nd hit tonight. And hit number 6 allowed by Darrell Kyle. The batter will be Ryan Plesko, who's got nothing to show for 3 at-bats tonight. He's grounded out to second, flied to left, and grounded out to first. And now we will get some activity. Billy Wagner is going to get up in the Houston bullpen.
Talked about the good work Fred's had against Houston in his last 9 games. He's now 15 for 35, so he certainly has snapped out of that slump he was in June.
0-1 on Plesko. I'll tell you one other thing Darrell Kyle's done very well tonight. He has not fallen into any pattern. He has thrown first pitch strikes to a good number of the hitters since that first inning, and it hasn't all come on a get-ahead fastball. He's thrown curveballs for strikes, fastballs for strikes.
Well, he hasn't shown that conveniently wild side of him tonight because he has been around the plate for most of the night. But 11 hit batsmen, 8 wild pitches. He can do that to a hitter. Make you very uncomfortable.
Here's the 1-1. Out of play, 1-2 now on Klesko. Nobody out here in the ninth inning. McGriff at first. He's not being held with the Astros up by 5. Deep to right field. This ball's going to be out of here. Long home run for Ryan Klesko. And the Braves have climbed 2 runs closer. For Klesko, his 25th homer. RBIs number 59 and 60. And it's now 7-4 Houston. So the Braves trying to stage one of their patented comebacks. Klesko got all of this one.
A hanger. He's had some pretty good snap on his breaking balls this inning. Broke one down and into Fred McGriff, but that one did not move much, except in the wrong direction for Darryl Kyle. Pretty well hit up into the seat.
So one swing of Ryan Klesko's bat gives the Braves a little hope. It's now 7-4. Still nobody out. Brent Strom is out to have a word with Kyle as Wagner continues to throw in the Astros bullpen.
Terry Collins makes the pitching changes. Strom out there just to give him a chance to catch his breath. Again, the bullpen part of the Astros ball club, not one that they like to get into.
It's very evident tonight. You very rarely would see a pitcher still out there with the number of pitches Kyle has thrown. And just having given up a 2-run homer. Here's Mark Whitten. 1 ball, no strikes. Whitten has flied to left twice and grounded out to short. This one out of play. 1 ball, 1 strike. Isn't it interesting whenever you see someone hit a homer for Atlanta and you take a shot at that player in the dugout, it always seems like Jermaine Dye has come over and taken a seat alongside him to pick up whatever little bits of wisdom he might be able to pick up. Grounded toward third and by third. Base hit left field. Mark Whitten reaching. 3rd straight hit of the inning. Darryl Kyle seems to be out of gas out there, but Terry Collins very reluctant to go to his bullpen.
Well, we were just talking about the hits the Braves had had since the 1st inning, Pete, and how they were just weak hits. Not this inning.
And now he is going to go get them. So after giving up 3 straight hits here in the 9th inning, the night will come to an end for Darryl Kyle as Terry Collins heads to the mound, and Billy Wagner will head into the game. Kyle will leave after working 8 innings, facing 3 batters in the 9th. He has given up 8 hits, 4 runs. The runner at first is his. Only 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, and a big ovation from this Houston crowd. Walks and 31 strikeouts.
Worked 2/3 of an inning last night in the 9th inning. Got a pop-up from Grissom and a fly ball from Lemke.
And right now with Todd Jones on the disabled list, looks like he's going to be their closer, at least for the time being. He has very little experience in this role, but if he's successful, it could be a big shot in the arm for this Houston ball club. Javi Lopez 1 for 3. Infield hit his last time up. Inside corner for a strike, 0-1. The 0-1 on the way. Lopez swings, bouncing ball, left side, over the glove of Miller. Base hit left field. And the Braves have strung together 4 straight hits here in the 9th inning. 1st and 2nd, nobody out. And they'll bring the tying run to the plate. Mike Mordecai will come on out of bat for Giovanola.
Remember in the bottom half of the 8th inning, we were talking about bunting with a 7-2 lead and how Terry Collins may want to add to that lead because he knows about the Braves' comeback ability. Well, you're seeing evidence of what he was thinking back in the 8th inning.
1st and 2nd, nobody out. Mordecai in the pinch hit.
This is what churns the stomach of managers who are struggling to snap out a winning streak, struggling to keep pace with the team ahead of them.
Mordecai at 240. He's 4 for 16 as a pinch hitter. And he takes a strike in the inside corner. Greg McMichael getting up in the Atlanta bullpen. Soon to be joined by Mark Wohlers. Here's the 0-1. Inside corner 0-2.
You don't see Mordecai do that very often. A fastball inside, pulled his hands in, thought he was going to be jammed, but that ball had good movement, good late movement. It tailed back over the inside corner.
Eddie Perez has moved on deck. Here's the 0-2.
If he goes back to that inside fastball, Morty could hurt him.
Here's the 1-2 on the way. Almost hit him. Gets away from Knorr. That'll move the runners up to second and third. As the count goes to 2-2.
They tried to bust inside, and that ball went off the glove of Randy Knorr. That may be a pass ball. He didn't quite get over there to get leather on it, but they call it a wild pitch. That's a little surprising.
So chalk up a wild pitch on Wagner's ledger. Second and third base hit could mean 2 runs here and get the Braves back to within 1. And there's still nobody out. It's 3-2.
Boy, things shifted in a hurry for Mike Mordecai. Behind in the count 0-2. Laid off the inside pitch. The last one was low. Now he's in the driver's seat.
He awaits the 3-2 pitch. Here it comes. Fly ball hit deep to center field. Mouton going back, still going back, makes the catch. Tagging at third and scoring would be Mark Whitten. Moving over to third, Javi Lopez. It is now 7-5 Houston. As Mordecai drives in a run with a sac fly to center. That's his 4th RBI of the year.
Tell you, Pete, Billy Wagner and the Astros are very fortunate that Mordecai hit this ball to center field because he clobbered it. Fastball away, and that's about all he could do with it. But if that ball had had a little bit more of the plate and he'd been able to turn on it, could have a tie game.
A runner at third now with 1 out. Eddie Perez on the pinch hit for Pedro Borbon. Perez on the year, 310, 3 homers, 12 RBIs, 0 for 3 as a pinch hitter.
But a first pitch swinger, be careful with the first fastball if you throw it.
Close the book on Kyle. All 5 of the runs are charged to him, and there's a strike in the inside corner to Perez, 0-1. Inside, almost hit him. 1 ball, 1 strike. The 1-1. Low and inside again, 2-1.
Talking about things that will drive managers crazy. The Astros came in with a record of 49 and 48, but they have 14 blown saves this year.
Here comes the 2-1 pitch. Big cut, and he came up empty, 2-2.
That was his pitch right there.
And you knew it.
Yeah.
Marquise Grissom waiting in the on-deck circle. The 2-2 on the way to Perez. Fly ball out to right center field. Pretty well hit. Mouton drifting back for this one. Makes the catch. Tagging at third, Javi Lopez. He will score. And it's now 7-6. So the pinch hitters come through with sacrifice flies, getting the run in on each occasion. But now there are 2 outs and the base is empty. And the Braves will have to start a rally all over again here without making another out. But they have pulled back to within 1.
And nobody else up in the Astros bullpen in preparation for the right-handed batter Marquise Grissom in the event that he came to the plate. So it's obvious Billy Wagner is the man.
Grissom tonight 2 for 4, a single and a home run. Lines 1 foul down the right side, 0-1. What looked like a waltz for the Astros going into the 9th inning has become a very tense ball game now. 7-6. 2 outs, bases empty. The 0-1. Right down the middle, 0-2.
Again, that late movement, a tailing fastball has had the right-handers giving up on it a little bit.
Here comes the 0-2 pitch. Fought it off foul, off to the right, still 0-2. Struck him out with a high fastball, and Houston holds on, but barely, to win the second game of this series. Final score, the Astros 7, the Atlanta Braves 6.
And our AutoZone player of the game for the Houston Astros, Derek Bell, who provided them with a lot of early offense. 2 for 4 on the night, but he had a double in the first inning to drive in a couple of runs, and a double in the third, scored a run. 3 RBIs total on the night. Stole a base also in the first inning to give him 19 on the year. Congratulations to Derek Bell. The Astros even the series at a game apiece, but now without some thrills in the ninth. We'll be back to wrap it up right after this.